have a training pack. It's 130 DVDs. We send that with a generator. And with that generator, a television set, so that people in the rural areas who don't have electricity, who are having church in a mud hut, and it just amazes me how they build these things. They put some wood together and pack mud in it, raise the wall, put a grass root on it, and they're having church. They don't need chairs, pews, benches, but they do need a sound system, every one of them. But we've been able to get a training center, and it started with one tape. Stephen sent a tape to somebody who wanted it very badly. The man in the post office stole the tape and said, man, this is a Christian tape. I'm going to sell it to somebody. And he went out and searched, looking for somebody to buy the Christian tape. And sure enough, he found a preacher who bought the tape. All right, he had to buy it on the installment plan because he just didn't have enough. But he watched that tape. I mean, listened to that tape, and he was so enamored with it that he called other pastors in to listen and said, this is the kind of teaching, this is the revelation that we've been waiting for. But they didn't have but one tape, and they wanted another. And they said, well, why don't we call, well, we can't afford to pay for, why don't we call and ask? And Stephen said, oh, man, you can have all the tapes you want. And that started this whole process of people responding to the Word of God, the expositional preaching of the Word of God. And so that started our first training center. But now, training centers have sprouted up everywhere because most of you are aware that most of the ministers in the world are not trained. But they want to be trained, but there are no seminaries. And so we provided this service of providing them the DVDs, the television sets, the generators. Brian, I hope I'm doing good. Okay. The generators so that they can have training camps. Now, unlike us, they come from miles around to assemble in a church. Sometimes no floor, sometimes no roof, sometimes just homemade bricks where they're building a church, wanting to have a place to worship. And they come in and they assemble. Well, there are men who operate these training camps who travel for miles and miles to get there to teach the Word of God and to show the tapes and the DVDs that Stephen has sent. And I say that, but you got to get a picture of this. To travel from Kampala in Uganda and go to Malawi to catch a boda, which is a motorcycle, and then another part of the journey you may ride in a car. And I thought that would be the best part of the car until I saw them get out. I mean, people on the back seat are stacked 4 deep. No, not 4 wide, 4 deep. I mean, 3 people are sitting on you. Well, these men would travel and get to a little church, and they'll stay there a week. They leave their families, they leave their churches, and they stay there a week, and they teach. And they don't get paid. I mean, their heart is in spreading the gospel. And because of all of you in Crossstyle, the materials that they needed, the curriculum that they needed is there. They are teaching. And so we're in Malawi teaching. We're in Congo teaching. And I want you to know, we went to all of these countries, and I've seen the Congo and Tarzan and all that on television. But man, when we went by Goma, Rat Pack, the Rat Patrol was brought to mind. There was a guy on the back of a truck with a 50 caliber machine gun. And they were at war there. And they were shooting at a building about 100 yards from us. But the people that were with us, that were taking the gospel, taking the training material, they were completely unfazed. You know, boom, boom, and we just driving on. I said, man, we had an opportunity to go to a place called Burundi. To get there, it's a 16-hour bus ride. No problem, I can ride the bus. I can ride the back of the bus. 16 hours. 16 hours on the bus. And because we were from the U.S., they were going to let us sit down, but all the guys that are traveling with us, they wanted them to stand up. And that was okay. They let them stand up. We had to take turns. But when we got to Burundi, there was 4 vehicles that met our bus. I said, what? Armed guards. And they needed armed guards because the bandits in Burundi are so bad, they attack the bus. They take the money from the tourists, from the missionaries, from whoever is coming. So they have an armed bus. I want you to know, they don't have a Greyhound on the side of their bus. They have a Jaguar. That's just how dangerous it is. we saw that in order to run a training camp in Burundi, these guys had to make the 16-hour trip. And so we began to see that we have some people who are bleeding, suffering, and literally dying. We went into some churches, and in the front of every church there's always children. And I just love children. But some of them were naked. I just couldn't understand why are these children naked? And some of them had shirts that were torn and tattered. And I came to find out that they are wearing these shirts, dresses 24/7. This is all they have. This is the only outfit, the only costume, the only anything. And the ones who were naked didn't have anything. And so we go into a church, and they would have the little homemade benches. They would have a sound system. One church had a truck battery and a car battery. And I said, you know, you're spending a lot of money to have a sound system, but all the little children that the Lord loved are naked. And I said, do you know that what the future is standing in front of the church, not in the church? And I said, as we begin to spread the gospel, let's share it with the children. And so we asked every church that they should, whenever they have a service, they should pray for the children. And I want you to know that you may think that the seed we're planting right there in Africa, East Africa, well, you know, it's just missionary work. But I want you to know, we told this story, that in a village in Kenya that nobody can remember the name, there wasn't at a major trading center where you had a lot of traffic, just a little village with a bunch of nobodies, and every year there were babies born that would never get outside the village. But one baby was born there, and the mother had the presence of mind to say, God intends for you to have great impact. God intends for you to have great impact. And everybody in that village laughed at that mother because no one had ever gotten out of the village. But she said, God intends for you to have great impact. And so the little boy grew up and went to the little village school, and some missionaries came by, and they said, oh, he's so smart. Let's take him to the city. They took him to Mombasa, and man, he got there and saw the big city looking for great impact. He said, man, I can't find it here. There's no great impact here. So maybe if I could get to the UK, somebody paid for him to go. And he went to the UK looking for great impact. He couldn't find it. He said, maybe if I go to the US, I could find the great impact that God intends for me. So he went to the U.S., he didn't find great impact, but he found a wife, got her pregnant, she had a baby. He couldn't find it, he left the wife, left the baby, left everything. End of the story, no. That mother of the new baby said, you're going to be a great leader. You're going to have the great impact that your father was looking for. And the kid grew up and he had serious problems in school. Some of you may know Dumbo, the elephant. He had these ears, and the kids made fun of him. But his mother said, you're going to be a great leader. That young man grew up to be the President of the United States. Whether you like him or not, somebody planted a seed. And so that's what we're doing. Every child in East Africa, we're planting a seed. We have 40 training centers in East Africa, and we've updated the program. Instead of getting the DVD player, generator, we put laptops in all the centers. Every center director has a laptop. And whether you recognize it or not, they don't call these training centers anymore. They call it the Cross-Style College. And they said that every little village has a college. And what you have done have inspired people to see beyond their horizon. And they're now looking at their children to have great impact. And the good thing about their college that they have in their village that you put there, it only teaches about Jesus. We're starting out teaching about the right thing in the right place. And so now, with those 40 centers, we're saying stop calling us every week and say, send money, send a training pack, send a copy, send a TV. Say, take responsibility for your own ministry. And so, as City Light Director, I'm the International Director for City Light as well, and we set up prayer groups. And a prayer group is Jesus and the 12 disciples. We believe that that little group forms the intimacy necessary for the gospel to go forth. And so we went back to Maga Maga, and where we had prayer groups last year, and one prayer group, a prayer group of men who didn't believe much in what we were saying, but one man got his prayer group together. And he's not only teaching the cross-style message to his 12 men, but what's oozing out of them in being Jesus is that they have decided to adopt 32 children with that one prayer group. And I said, well, wow, this is awesome. What do you mean adopt? He said, well, we pay their fees to school. We bring them in the afternoon and teach them the cross-style message. I said, wow, that's just awesome. He said, we're going to buy them clothes because when they go to school, they get a uniform. I said, wow, that's awesome. I said, well, what's going to happen next year? He said, next year, each one of my 12 is going to have a prayer group. And next year, we're going to have 300 cross-style children in school that we sponsor in Africa. I need to let you know that there is a cross-style college campus in Maga Maga. We have 10 acres. We completed the first building, and now they're beginning to build a 40 by 60 building that will be the multi-purpose center. It will be the place for the health center, the women's health, the children's health. That center will be the place for food distribution, clothing distribution, and we didn't see many addicts, but it will be a place for the Lazarus Project. And as we have built this, people from all over us are just marveling at how Cross-Style has established itself. And so everywhere that we went, they said, please, put a college in our village. And I want you to know in Kenya, in the little village that Obama's father was born, they have come forward and said, here's 5 acres. We want to give it to you, that you'll put a cross-style college in our village so that we will have great impact on the world. I want you to know that all of the center directors in East Africa have come together. Some men have 10 centers, some have 5 centers, some have, but they've all come together and they form a board of regions where they're beginning to standardize their curriculum with the new laptops that we gave them. We took 15 laptops over this year. They're on Google Apps. They're able to use Google Docs. And so now the grading of the students is now in the cloud. I want you to know that the whole cross-style curriculum is now in the cloud. Some of you may know from the book of Revelation, Jeremiah, that there's a cloud of witnesses that are looking down through Google Apps and all of our friends. Some of you know that we used to buy a generator. We buy a generator, put it in. But we went to several churches and we gave them money for a generator, and they called back and they said, we use the money for something else. So what do you mean you use the money for something? You're not going to have that accountability. I'm white and Western. So what do you mean? You didn't buy the generator? I said, no, we bought a pole. You bought a pole? What good is a pole? They said, well, the electricity, we can get it in our community if they count how many poles are away from the main power source. He said we were just one pole away. The pole was less than the generator. And so we bought a pole, and now the church has electricity. Not only do we have cross-style in the church, but we don't have to use batteries for the sound system. and I was feeling pretty good about that. But I want you to know how your money is working. 50 families around the church get electricity because of the little investment we made in one pole. Now, wait a minute, it gets better. Because they have electricity, they're now able to run the pump, and they don't have to walk 5 miles to get the water. Some of you may be familiar with the yellow 20-liter jerry can that you have to carry to bring the water in. Well, now they're pumping the water. And so we've had 10 communities to offer us land to build the Cross-Style College. We've had several communities to say that we want a missionary to come and live. The building that we're building is going to have a bedroom, a western bathroom, and some of you may remember that we wanted to get all the students to come here. And so in Africa, we could have 50 students come here. Or we could send one student from here to there to teach for a year. So we'll be building the program where some of you will get an opportunity to go there to the uttermost and share the gospel of Jesus Christ. I want to thank you personally because, where's Ramon? Ramon, come on up. Ramon and I got to go and represent you, and it has changed our lives. I mean, it has changed our lives. My wife better not say anything to me about kitchen appliances. The women there don't have a kitchen. They cook outside. And every place we went, they served us a royal meal. The Women's Prayer Group in Maga set up a catering service where they served other churches. And over the years, they bought their own pots and their own pans. They didn't call us, didn't send us money for pots. They bought their own. And they have been serving churches and making money. And they have bought the materials to go and serve other cross-style centers in terms of books and paper and magazines. I want you to know that God has blessed East Africa, and He used you to do it. Somebody say